Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of OSI Today, the podcast featuring news and views from around the Office of Special Investigations. I'm Wayne Amon from OSI Public Affairs, and today we start a special series within OSI Today. It's called My OSI Journey, which showcases the diversity and inclusion of our command-wide members. And I'm so pleased to be joined today by Mr. Howard Cary, the Associate Director of Mission Support in the OSI Investigations, Collections, and Operations Nexus Center, also known as the OSI Icon Center. Sir, welcome aboard to the inaugural edition of My OSI Journey. So great to talk to you today.
Thank you, sir. Pleased to be here.
Let's get right into it, shall we? Now, as a member of OSI, you didn't start out with OSI, from what your biography tells us. You began as an admin troop outside of law enforcement. Is that right?
That's absolutely right. I actually joined the Air Force in 1979. Was assigned to SAC at Dyess Air Force Base, and became interested more in special duty, I'd say, than law enforcement, because I really am a career pro staffer. Even though I have served as the superintendent at Region 7 and Region 8.
I see. Very good. So you had kind of a well-rounded administrative background, I guess, before you came to law enforcement then.
Yes, sir. I absolutely did.
Now, when and how did you become interested in the area of law enforcement and subsequently to the Office of Special Investigations?
Well, actually, being an administrator, I was really more interested in special duty because that just seemed like a really great way to challenge myself as I was kind of talking to other first-term airmen. And even though I did have a great job when I was at Dyess, it just seemed like looking at these special duties that, like I said, that was a good way to go. In January of 82, I actually got assigned to OSI and DPRS at Bolling Air Force Base. And that's before the days of SSOs, the security function resided in DPR.
Okay, now, sir, DPRS, for our novice listeners to OSI, what does that acronym stand for again?
So basically for OSI, DP is the personnel function at for OSI, and R basically was the kind of recruiting section. Right. So as new agents would come into the academy, I was responsible for doing their security paperwork. That was my first job with OSI.
Oh, wow. So you got to get to those newly minted agents very early on in their careers, I would imagine.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It was a very rewarding job. Very rewarding.
Now, how did your OSI career begin as far as really in earnest? Now, you mentioned you started at DPRS. How did it progress from there?
Well, from there, you'd have to remember that we had districts as opposed to regions. So whereas we have 8 regions and the academy now, we had 21 districts that were all 60, 70 people. I mean, the Air Force was huge back then. Right. So it was a lot easier to stay with the command because we not only did our agent assignments, we could also do administrative assignments that were basically just kind of hacked off on by AFPC. So, I started at Dyess and I started for OSI, I started at headquarters for my first OSI assignment. And then from there, as I made rank, I just took the next opportunity as an assistant NCOIC at a district and then an NCOIC at a district and just continued to progress on because basically the rule was if you did well and seemed to be motivated, OSI wanted to keep you. And it was just such an interesting job. I just didn't want to leave, to be honest. But obviously today you couldn't do that. The Air Force is a lot smaller. We can't move around inside the command like that anymore. And it's really not good for an administrator's career to stay with OSI try to stay that length of time. It's okay to leave and come back, but you can't stay that like back in those days.
Right. Well, times have changed. That's certainly true. With these days with COVID and everything like that, it's the new normal is really quite interesting to say the least. Now, when you began your OSI career, administratively, were there any specific challenges that you faced when you joined the organization, and how did you overcome those if they did come along?
Well, I would say, obviously, one of the biggest challenges is I joined OSI before we even had computers. You had mainframe computers that were at like AFPC, right. But for the most part, we had typewriters. And so
I can relate with that. You and I are both old school. I can certainly relate with that.
Yeah, they had Underwoods, and if you were really special, you might get an IBM Selectric. But the reality was that was just the day and the time. And, so processing administrative paperwork, especially like declarations, right. EPRs, OPRs was really difficult because you couldn't just, hit print and print everything that you put in there down. So that really kind of took care of itself as the IT world just basically exploded. Right. But I would have to say the biggest challenge was how administrators were treated back in the late 70s and 80s. Kind of like in most of the Air Force, we just really weren't treated as equals. Uh-huh. In OSI, there were things like, administrators were expected to chauffeur the agents and, drop off and pick up from the airport, accomplish their vouchers. So right. Kind of treated more like a secretary. Huh. So it was a little difficult, but it was also kind of considered the norm for back then, to be honest.
Yeah. How did you benefit from having to do all those, I guess you maybe for lack of a better term, those collateral type duties back then? Did it round you out as an admin person and just an airman?
I think it did, just from the standpoint that you really learned how to be kind of a jack of all trades, even if a master of none. But I will say that it did help as the times changed and people were better educated and better informed. And thankfully leadership, kind of engaged at every level, and the paradigm really shifted to more of equality and, kind of respecting what an administrator is basically tasked by AFSC to do. Right, so that became good.
Now, these days of OSI, am I correct in assuming that, administrators would be considered part of that overall professional staff?
That is correct. That is correct.
Now, let's kind of fast forward a little bit. What inspires you in today's present environment to do your best in OSI?
Well, I'd have to say that it's our mission that inspires me to do my best in OSI. We are just so relevant and impactful to the Air Force mission. And it's really good to know that we're impartial and that we prove just as many people innocent as we do guilty. And I just don't think that enough people really realize or understand that. Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's a very, very, very good point. Now, this next question might kind of dovetail off of the previous one. Mr. Cary, what is the most gratifying part of your job with OSI, or are there many?
That one's pretty easy. I'd have to say by far it's the people. OSI has been my family for almost 40 years now. And all I can say is that I hope that I've given as much back to this organization as it's given me. I mean, this has just been such an awesome ride.
Well, you certainly made your mark. You made it to a Chief Master Sergeant before you retired from active duty. That must have been a real feather in your cap, knowing that. Did you envision back in the day when you first started as an airman that you'd end your active duty career as a chief?
Actually, no. My goal was to become a tech sergeant, to be honest.
I can relate to that.
And the reason is as an airman, when I looked at a tech sergeant, that was a person who could functionally do the job, but could also manage the job. So I just thought that was just so cool and inspirational to be able to not, like I said, not only do the job, but manage the job. So really, I kind of self-actualized, I guess, after, making tech sergeant. But, the reality is I never strove to be a chief. I just strove to do a good job. Kind of like what General Simmons used to always say, performance matters.
Right.
And,
And of course, General Simmons, I'm sorry, sir, as we know, within OSI, General Simmons was one of the prior commanders of the organization.
Absolutely, sir. He was, very inspirational to me through the years. He was my vice commander when Region 2 first stood up. Very, very wise man. But, that's the one thing he said that really stuck. Performance matters. And, if you just focus on doing your job and taking care of your people, really the rest takes care of itself.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's kind of like a positive domino effect, I guess, if you want to look at it.
Yes, sir. Great way to put it. To put it.
Now, in retrospect, Mr. Cary, if you could do it all over again, and I guess, a lot of people have been asked this question too, is there anything you would do to change your past about your OSI career, or would you just leave it just the way it has been?
Well, to be perfectly honest, I wouldn't change a thing. Everything that's either good or bad that's happened in my career, I really believe it happened for a reason. And I'm okay with that. You can't prove the negative. So if you change something, you just don't know what impact that would really have. So I'm good with it.
Right. Now let's bring up to present day once again. What direction do you envision OSI going into the future? I know we hear a lot about, General Bullitt, our present commanders, the OSI we need, and things along that line. As from your perspective and your experiences, where do you envision OSI going from this point forward?
Well, just from my perspective, I see OSI becoming even more cyber-centric and developing joint missions and projects with Space Force. And although we're pretty relevant now, I see us becoming even more relevant to the DoD for other emerging missions.
Very, very well put. Now, again, back in the day, I guess when you were in the admin airman, if you will, I guess working with the manual typewriters, as you said,
right.
with I guess, and I'm correct in assuming that you worked with carbon paper and all that other good stuff.
Yes.
But these days, with all the technology, you mentioned cyber and all this other stuff, it must be amazing to you to see such advances progressing in such a very quick manner. Some people say that, technology, you have to wake up the next day and it's going to change already. So it must be interesting for you to see how technology has kind of shaped, OSI to a major degree.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, technology just evolves, exponentially. It's almost like as soon as something hits the shelf, it's already old.
Right.
So, like I say, being an older guy, that, is a little harder for me to kind of, grasp as things come out. But it's amazing how efficient. And when you look at why the Air Force downsized, especially on the administrative side of the house, it was because you didn't have to have secretaries and administrators perform that function, because of the personal computer. And it's just made us just so fast and so good and able to respond to, operational requirements, in minutes, whereas it would have taken someone doing a hard copy message and running it to the message center back in the day. It's something to think about.
Yeah, and I would imagine, too, that it's opened up a lot of job possibilities for airmen these days, too, to keep up with that technology.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's something we're going to need more of, not just in OSI, but in the command is, realizing with that exponential growth, what's the tail that comes with that. And I hope we don't get behind on that. I hope we, as a command, can stay ahead of that. Because if not, we're going to be lost.
Right. Shifting gears a little bit now, sir, one of the big phrases of late has been diversity and inclusion, not only within OSI, the military, and the country at large. Why do you think diversity and inclusion is so foundational to OSI's success?
Well, sir, I would say not only foundational, I would say it's essential to the success for the Air Force and OSI. If everyone is not viewed as an equal, you can't feel as though you're an integral or really essential part of the organization or the team. And understanding that diversity is also more than color or gender. It's also recognizing like differing experience levels and what each person really brings to the table. So looking at each person as an individual really just makes the whole team stronger.
Right. So I guess you've seen diversity and inclusion come a long way since your early days as an airman with the Air Force.
Yeah, absolutely, and in several ways. Yes, sir.
Very good. Now, what advice, being I don't want to say a gray-haired person like myself, but what advice would you give someone who would want to join OSI these days with what OSI has to offer, and what have you? And based on your experience, I think your words would go a long way in telling newcomers to the career field or to the command rather, what they might expect and what they could prepare themselves for if they wanted to join the organization.
Well, I would highly recommend OSI, but I would really preface that with talking to that individual and making sure that they were highly motivated. When you look at everything that OSI does for the Air Force, whether it's operationally as an agent, or whether it's as our analytical team, or whether it's professional staff, IT, there's a home for anyone who's a high performer. So like I said, I would just highly recommend it. You just can't go wrong. I really don't believe I would have stayed in the Air Force or even be serving as a civil servant if it was with another organization.
So bottom line, if you could say in one word, what kept you around with OSI? Was it the people?
It was. I would say it was leaders. Okay. I've had the pleasure of serving, some of the legends really in this command, as leadership, and continue to do so with General Bullard, Colonel Bumgarner, just to name a couple. Right. But
and of course, Colonel Bumgarner is going to be, I guess, the new vice commander too. If that's correct.
Yes, sir. That's absolutely correct. She's a phenomenal leader. And I think it's just been the leadership that would, pat you on the back when needed and kick you in the butt when needed. Because at the end of the day, the OSI leaders just want to make you better. So it's what you do with the constructive feedback that you receive from them. And I've just always appreciated it. So I would say, in a word, it would be leadership has kept me here.
Puts everybody on the correct vector, I guess.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, finally, Mr. Cary, as we wrap things up, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Well, the only thing I'd finish with is to say that it has been such an absolute honor to serve with OSI for all of this time. This organization was just so instrumental in developing me as a professional, and it really helped me to understand what it is to serve something bigger than yourself. And not only that, to be able to serve others more than yourself. So I've grown so much professionally and personally because of this organization. So I think that'd be my final thought, sir.
So it comes down to those core values, like it always seems to do.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Very good, sir. Our guest has been Mr. Howard Cary, the Associate Director of Mission Support in the OSI Investigations, Collections, and Operations Nexus Center. Sir, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
And thanks to all of you listening for tuning in. For OSI Today and My OSI Journey, I'm Wayne Amon saying so long for now.